San Francisco went to sleep at midnight on April 17, 1906, the wealthiest and most confident city in the American West. Theaters on Market Street had just emptied, and the last streetcars were still running their routes through the gaslit avenues. Beneath the city, the San Andreas Fault had been accumulating stress for decades, and nobody in San Francisco had any idea. At 5:12 in the morning, a foreshock rolled through the quiet streets and gave sleeping residents roughly 20 seconds to wonder what was happening. Then, the magnitude 7.9 rupture arrived, and the city that had taken generations to build began coming apart in under a minute. 400,000 people called this city home, and on that Tuesday evening, most of them had every reason to feel secure about tomorrow. The Opera House on Mission Street had drawn a full crowd that night, and Enrico Caruso himself had performed on its stage. San Francisco had survived booms and busts and fires before, and each time it rebuilt itself bigger and more certain of its own permanence. That certainty was the city's most dangerous quality, because it meant no one had thought seriously about what would happen if the water mains failed. The gas lamps along the avenues burned low as the hours passed, and the streets that had roared with life just hours before settled into a silence that felt, for a moment, like peace.
By 4 in the morning, the city had traded its amber glow for something colder and quieter.
The saloons were dark, but San Francisco was never fully still. It ran on a skeleton crew of the invisible. Bakers were already pulling bread from ovens on Kearny Street, filling the cold air with warmth that nobody outside would feel. Milk wagons rolled through the empty avenues, their iron wheels loud against the cobblestones in a way the daytime crowd would never notice. Police officers walked their beats alone, swinging their lanterns past shuttered storefronts and locked-up theaters. Newspaper compositors were setting type for a morning edition that would never reach most of its readers.
Beneath all of them, 11 miles down, the Pacific Plate was grinding northwest against the North American Plate.
Stress that had been building for decades, silently, with no instrument in the city capable of measuring it. No alarm existed that could have told these men what was already in motion. The quietest hour San Francisco would ever know was also its last.
At 5:12 in the morning, the city's silence broke with a single low shudder that rolled beneath the streets like a warning no one had a language for. Sleepers jolted upright in boarding houses on Kearny Street. Horses screamed in their stalls on the waterfront, and a few men standing at bakery ovens grabbed the nearest wall. That was the foreshock, a tremor just strong enough to make San Francisco hold its breath. For roughly 20 seconds, the city hung there, suspended between what it had been and what it was about to become. Some people stepped outside into the cool April air, confused, looking for the source of a sound they couldn't name. They had no warning system, no protocol, no word traveling down any wire. And then the fault moved. Not a tremor, not a shudder, but a full rupture, tearing northwest along 400 miles of fractured crust in under a minute.
The earthquake lasted 20 seconds, but the fires lasted 3 days. Broken gas mains lit themselves in the dark before the shaking had even stopped, and the water mains that could have killed those flames were already split open and draining into the rubble. Firefighters dragged their hoses to hydrant after hydrant and found nothing, just the hollow sound of a city that had lost its own blood supply. Without pressure, without coordination, the fires merged into a single moving wall that consumed block after block across more than 500 city blocks. By the time the ash settled, over half the population was homeless, sleeping in parks that no longer had a city around them. The gas-lit restaurants, the opera crowds, the ferry passengers heading home, all of it was gone in 72 hours. What San Francisco had spent 50 years building, the fires finished in 3.